I'm 72, and I've noticed something that I didn't expect when I was younger. I find myself avoiding people more and more. Not because I don't care, not because I've become cold or indifferent, but because somewhere along the way, the world changed. Or maybe I changed. And I think many people around my age would agree, even if they don't say it out loud. In my years as a doctor, and as a man who's seen both life and loss, I've realized this withdrawal isn't something random. It's not a personality quirk. It's something deeper, something earned through years of living, giving, and enduring. Let me tell you what I've come to understand. These are 7 reasons why many people in their 70s begin to distance themselves from others. And I say this not only from professional observation, but from the quiet voice within myself. First, pain changes how we interact. And I'm not just talking about physical pain, though that's part of it. The kind that settles into the joints, the knees, the back. That kind of pain makes socializing more exhausting. But there's also emotional pain, the kind that's harder to see. A study published in the Journal of Aging and Health found that seniors experiencing chronic pain were significantly more likely to isolate themselves. Not because they want to, but because pain takes energy. And when getting out of bed already feels like climbing a mountain, small talk feels like a marathon. I've felt it. Days when my knees ache and my spirit feels heavy. On those days, silence is easier than conversation. And when people say, "You should come out more," I smile. But inside, I think, you don't understand what it takes just to show up. Second, we carry the weight of loss. It begins slowly. A friend here, a neighbor there. Then suddenly the phone doesn't ring as much. The calendar has fewer birthdays to remember. Loss has a way of shrinking our world. According to a 2021 study by the National Institute on Aging, people in their 70s and beyond report an average of 3 to 5 significant personal losses within a decade. That's not just numbers, that's people. Spouses, siblings, lifelong friends. With every goodbye, part of us folds inward. We begin to guard our hearts. We learn to avoid the pain of another farewell. We stop reaching out, not because we've stopped loving, but because we've lost too much already. I've looked at empty chairs across my dinner table, and each one has a story. Sometimes silence is less painful than facing another reminder of who is no longer here. Third, the world feels faster than we can follow. Conversations seem rushed. Everyone's busy, always checking phones, making plans, running errands. And we, the slower walkers, the deeper thinkers, feel out of step. A study by Pew Research found that nearly 60% of seniors feel disconnected from modern communication methods. Texting, video calls, social media. All these things are supposed to bring people closer, but they often make us feel left behind. I've been in a room full of younger folks, and not one of them looked up from their screen. I sat there quietly, wondering if anyone noticed I was even there. It's not bitterness, it's just reality. Sometimes avoiding people feels better than being around people who seem to forget you're present. Fourth, trust becomes more fragile with age. Life has taught us to be cautious. We've seen betrayals, heard lies, felt disappointments, not only from strangers, but sometimes from those we once held close. The older we get, the more we value sincerity over popularity. The more we crave depth over noise. But genuine connection is rare. Too often, conversations feel shallow, or worse, they come with hidden motives. A 2020 research article in The Gerontologist revealed that many older adults hesitate to form new relationships out of fear of being taken advantage of. Financial scams, emotional manipulation. We've seen it happen. Some of us have lived through it. So we retreat, not out of arrogance, but out of self-preservation. I've learned to enjoy my own company more than risking another letdown. Fifth, identity begins to shift. This one is harder to explain, but I'll try. When you retire, when your children move away, when your roles change, so does your sense of who you are. You're no longer the teacher or the father who fixes everything or the neighborhood doctor. You're just you, and that can feel unsettling. A study published by Psychology and Aging found that older adults often struggle with a sense of purposelessness after retirement. And with that struggle, many retreat inward, trying to rediscover who they are without titles or tasks. When people ask, "So what are you up to these days?" we pause. Not because we don't have answers, but because we're still trying to find them ourselves. Sometimes it's easier not to be asked, so we pull away. Not because we have nothing to say, but because our identity is still unfolding in a quieter way. Sixth, overstimulation exhausts us more than it used to. The noise of crowds, the volume of restaurants, the traffic, the endless buzzing of the world. It's a lot, and our nervous systems aren't as resilient as they once were. The American Journal of Geriatric Psychiatry reports that as we age, our tolerance for sensory overload declines. Our brains process noise more slowly, our bodies tire more quickly. I've walked into a family gathering, full of laughter and chaos, and felt completely out of place, not because I didn't love them, but because it felt like trying to swim against a wave. I wanted to be there. I just couldn't stay long. So I left early, drove home, sat in silence, and finally felt like I could breathe again. Seventh, we begin to value peace more than performance. In youth, we gather crowds, we network, we chase friendships, we build social circles. But in our 70s, we begin to realize that peace is more valuable than popularity. We've done the work. We've lived the years. We no longer feel the need to explain ourselves or prove ourselves. A quiet cup of tea on the porch is more nourishing than a loud dinner party. A conversation with one kind soul is more fulfilling than a room full of strangers. Research from Harvard's study of adult development, one of the longest-running studies on aging, reveals that meaningful relationships, not quantity, but quality, are the strongest predictors of long-term well-being. That means it's not about having many people around. It's about having the right people. And if we don't have those, we'd rather be alone. Not lonely, just alone. Because we've finally made peace with our own presence. I know what some might think, that pulling away is a sign of depression, that it's something that should be fixed. But here's what I want to say as someone who's lived 72 long, layered, beautiful years. Sometimes avoiding people is not a cry for help. It's a choice for calm. It's a sign of wisdom, not weakness. It's an adjustment to the life that we've earned. We are not withdrawing out of bitterness. We are simply choosing what nourishes us now. And sometimes that means choosing solitude over stimulation, quiet over noise, depth over distraction. Still, if you're in your 70s like me, and you feel the pull to isolate more than ever, I gently urge you to check in with yourself. Is it peace you're seeking, or is it protection from pain? Are you resting, or are you hiding? There's a difference, and only you can answer that. If you need help, seek it. If you need space, honor it. Just remember that human connection, even in small doses, is still essential. Even a brief phone call, a short walk with a neighbor, a warm conversation with an old friend. These moments can light a spark in a quiet soul, and that spark matters. We may avoid people for many reasons, but let us not forget that love and connection are still part of our wiring. Even if we've learned to live with more silence, even if we've found comfort in solitude, we are still human, still capable of joy, still worthy of warmth. Whether that warmth comes from within or from a gentle hand reaching out, let us remain open, just enough to let it in. Because even at 72, the heart never stops needing what it has always needed. A little understanding, a little peace, and a little love. How do physical health and social health interact in the later years? As we grow older, our bodies and minds begin to speak to us in ways we may not have fully understood when we were younger. There is a deep connection between physical health and social health in the later years. It is not just about living longer, but living better, with dignity, joy, and connection. I have spent many years as a doctor working closely with seniors, and what I have seen again and again is this simple truth. Our physical well-being and our social well-being are inseparable. They are two sides of the same coin, influencing one another in ways that are profound and sometimes surprising. When the body weakens, it often pulls us away from social life. Aches, pains, chronic conditions, and limited mobility can make it difficult to leave the house or engage in activities that once brought joy and connection. The American Journal of Public Health published a study showing that seniors with physical disabilities are 2 times more likely to experience social isolation. This isolation is not just a consequence of physical health, but also a contributor to further decline. The body becomes fragile, and the heart and mind start to close off. It becomes a cycle that feeds itself, one that can be hard to break. But there is a flip side to this as well. When social connections weaken, the impact on physical health is tangible. The famous Harvard study of adult development, which tracked over 700 men for more than 75 years, found that the quality of relationships was a better predictor of long-term health and happiness than even genes or money. Those who stayed connected with family, friends, and community not only lived longer, but also had better immune function, lower blood pressure, and reduced risk of chronic diseases. This study proves what many seniors feel intuitively. Being around others, feeling loved and valued, protects the body as much as medicine can. Think about the stress that loneliness brings. It's not just emotional pain. It translates into real physiological changes. Research in the journal Psychoneuroendocrinology shows that loneliness triggers elevated cortisol levels, which is the body's main stress hormone. Elevated cortisol over long periods suppresses immune response, increases inflammation, and can lead to heart disease and cognitive decline. In other words, when we are cut off from others, our body's defense systems weaken. We become more vulnerable to illness. So social isolation does not just make us feel lonely, it can literally make us sick. Physical activity is another place where the connection between body and social life is clear. Exercise is often prescribed as medicine for seniors, and for good reason. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention states that regular physical activity helps prevent falls, manages chronic conditions like arthritis and diabetes, and improves mental health. But exercise is also a social activity. Walking with a friend, joining a dance class, or participating in community gardening brings together physical movement and social engagement. These activities motivate seniors to keep moving. The companionship makes the effort enjoyable. When one feels supported and connected, it becomes easier to care for the body. And when the body is cared for, it is easier to reach out and stay connected. Chronic illnesses often complicate this relationship between physical and social health. Conditions like heart disease, diabetes, or COPD can make social interaction more challenging due to fatigue, embarrassment, or fear of judgment. A study from the Journal of Gerontology found that seniors with multiple chronic conditions reported feeling isolated because they worried about being a burden or unable to keep up with others. This feeling of being on the outside erodes mental health and sometimes leads to depression, which further reduces motivation to manage physical health. It is a downward spiral that must be recognized and addressed with compassion and support. Mental health itself bridges the gap between physical and social health. Depression, anxiety, and cognitive decline affects seniors more than many realize. The World Health Organization estimates that around 15% of adults aged 60 and over suffer from a mental disorder. These conditions impact physical health through decreased appetite, poor sleep, and reduced activity levels. Social withdrawal, common in mental illness, deprives the individual of the very support networks that might provide relief and healing. Conversely, maintaining friendships and community ties has been shown to lower rates of dementia and cognitive decline. The connection with others keeps the brain active, challenged, and engaged, which protects it against the ravages of time. Nutrition is yet another critical point of interaction. Eating well is foundational for physical health, yet social factors heavily influence eating habits. Seniors who live alone or feel lonely often lose interest in preparing meals. They may skip meals or choose less nutritious options. The Journal of Nutrition, Health and Aging published findings that seniors with fewer social contacts had poorer diets and were at higher risk of malnutrition. Conversely, family meals, community dinners, and shared cooking experiences encourage better nutrition. The simple act of sharing a meal bonds people and strengthens both social and physical health. In all of this, the role of caregivers and family members cannot be overstated. They often serve as the bridge between physical and social health. When a loved one helps with transportation to social events, encourages physical activity, or simply checks in regularly, they are supporting health on multiple levels. Studies show that seniors with engaged caregivers have lower hospitalization rates and better management of chronic diseases. The presence of a caring person can make the difference between isolation and connection, between decline and thriving. So what does this mean for you? For me, for anyone walking through the later chapters of life, it means that caring for your body is also caring for your connections. And caring for your connections is caring for your body. It means recognizing that a walk in the park is not just exercise, but a chance to see a neighbor. That attending a community event is not just entertainment, but an opportunity to nurture the mind and spirit. That saying yes to a phone call or a visit might be the best medicine available. The journey into older age can feel daunting, full of losses and challenges, but it can also be a time of renewed understanding, a time when we learn that health is not merely the absence of disease, but the presence of connection. When our bodies feel weak or tired, our hearts can still find strength in the presence of others. And when our hearts feel lonely, caring for the body can give us the energy to reach out once more. It is a delicate dance between physical and social health. One supports the other, and together they create the foundation for a life well lived. So if you find yourself withdrawing, remember this connection. Reach out gently, move your body lovingly, and cherish the ties that bind you. Because in those connections, in that movement, lies the true essence of health in our later years.